It's time to bust some myths with our high school students. Mad cheesy. Hello, I am Nadine Thornhill, sexuality educator, and welcome to my series Save Sex Ed, where I teach every sex education module from Ontario's 2015 Health and Phys Ed curriculum. Now, if you are new here and you think I'm weird, I am, because I've been doing a lot of these videos and now I'm kind of... But also, if you want to learn more about the series, then click that eye up there. Also, click the button down below and you can see all of my videos and me acting weird. And also click the bell so you get notified every time I post a new video with me being weird. The Health and Phys Ed curriculum for grades 9 through 12 outline the following learning objective for grade 10. Describe some common misconceptions about sexuality in our culture and explain how these may cause harm to people and how they can be responded to critically. So for this activity, you are going to need newsprint and some markers. So to start the activity, you are going to ask your class or your group, what is a myth? Once people have had a chance to give their answers, you're going to summarize by giving a definition. Now, there are actually different definitions of myths, like there are the kind of myths that were meant to describe natural or human phenomenon, like ancient Egyptian myths or, ancient Greek myths. But in this case, we're talking about the definition of myth that means a widely or commonly held belief that is inaccurate or untrue. Next, ask your class or your group, what are some sexual myths? Now you just want to get a few examples, maybe 4 or 5, and you're going to write those on your newsprint as well. Then you're going to explain that, generally speaking, sexual myths can be divided into 4 categories. So there are the myths that are meant to discourage people from having sex. Then there are the myths that are meant to encourage or convince people that they should have sex. There are the myths that are designed to normalize certain people while marginalizing others. I call those the oppressive myths. And finally, there are the myths that just get perpetuated because, it's just inaccurate or incomplete information. And I call those the honest mistake myths. Now, some sexual myths fit into more than one category. And at this point in the video, I was actually going to read a list of sexual myths, but then I came up with so many and it's really long. So instead of reading them here on camera, I'm going to post them on my website, NadineThornhill.com. It's up there in the eye, and you can go and read them for yourselves. And if you want to, head to the comment section either there or here and add some that maybe I did not think of. So next, divide the class into 4 groups and give each group a sheet of newsprint. Each group is going to take one of the following categories. So discouraging myths, encouraging or convincing myths, oppressive myths, and the honest mistake myths. And in each group, they are going to try and think of as many sexual myths as possible that fit into their particular category. And, 1 or 2 people can take on the job of recording all of those answers on their sheet of newsprint. So give your groups 10 to 20 minutes to complete their newsprint, complete their list. Once each group has made their list, have one group come up and present their list to the rest of the class. And now once they're finished, ask the class if there are any other myths that they would include on that list. And then next, ask the class how they would debunk any of the myths on that list. So you're going to repeat that for each group. And then you're going to conclude the exercise by explaining that if we hear information about, sex or sexuality that just doesn't track or doesn't seem right, we can go and we can do a little bit of research, because it's actually really important and really valuable when we're making sexual decisions for ourselves, that those decisions be based on fact and accurate information. Nowadays, a lot of us do our research on the internet. So if you are a teacher or you are a facilitator, what you don't want to do is just, send your teens out into the internet to find information about sex unprepared, because it is a jungle of information and a lot of it is not accurate. What you want to do is send them away with a list of reliable resources that they can consult when they need information about sexuality. If you do not have such a list, then stay tuned, because at the end of this video, I will give you a list of reliable resources, because that is what I do in these videos. I've spoken a lot in my career and on this channel about the importance of avoiding myths when talking to our own kids about sex and sexuality. A lot of us, likely have values around sex that we are hoping our kids will adopt. We likely have, opinions about things that we hope our kids will or won't do in terms of their sexual choices, or will or won't experience in, their sexual and romantic lives. The best way to impart those values and to talk about, those opinions that we have is to own them as our opinions and as our values. Using myths to try and influence our kids' sexual behavior and their sexual choices is lying. And that really undermines our credibility as trustworthy people that they can come to when they need information or when they need to talk about, issues related to sex and sexuality. Sometimes we might pass along one of those honest mistake myths. We will give our kids information that we sincerely believed was true. I know I myself have done it. And when that happens, that's not lying. That's just, like I said, it's an honest mistake. So if that happens, go to your child, go back, apologize for passing along incorrect information, and give them the correct information. A couple of questions to ask your teens about sexual myths. What is the weirdest thing you have heard or have been told about sex? When you get new information about sex, how do you figure out whether or not it's true? Resources you can use to get fact-based information about sexuality. I promised I would deliver, and there are a lot today. My perennial favorite, scarletine.com. Another website I really love for getting information, particularly for and about teens, is Go Ask Alice. PlannedParenthood.org has tons of great fact-based information. In fact, any Planned Parenthood website is going to be great for that. The World Health Organization has lots of statistics and facts about sex and sexual behavior and sexual health around the world. Similarly, the Centers for Disease Control is another great resource. Here in Canada, we have a similar government agency, Health Canada. Again, great resource if you're looking for information around sexual health. GLAAD, it's an acronym for the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. They also have tons of information if you want facts about, LGBTQ life. Action Canada for Sexual Health and Rights. They're a bomb agency. I know a lot of people there, so hello people. There are also a lot of great books, many of which I have mentioned previously on the channel, some of which I have mentioned earlier in the series. The Guide to Getting It On. I have done a review of this book, and you can check it out by clicking the I or going down below. Trans Bodies, Transselves. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago in one of the videos we did about gender. Our Bodies, Ourselves, which is a similar book that is mainly focused on women and women's sexuality. Changing Bodies, Changing Lives. It is another similar style of book, which is, focused more on adolescence. Queer, a guide for LGBTQ teens. I talked very briefly about that a couple of videos ago. Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski is one of my all-time favorite books about sexual desire and arousal. It really changed my perspective on a lot of things, so highly recommend that book. Virgin, The Untouched History. I I do not believe in virginity as a concept. However, I know that a lot of people do, and it really influences the way a lot of people think about, sex and partnered sex. So, I think it's a really great book, and it also has a lot of factual information. And finally, you can contact your local public health or sexual health agency, and they will have lots and lots of information for you. In the comments below, tell me about a sexual myth that you heard or you were told. It doesn't necessarily have to be one that you believed, just stuff that you've heard. I have heard so many sexual myths in my lifetime. All the you can't get pregnant if, you can't get pregnant if you stand up after sex, you can't get pregnant if you haven't had your period, you can't get pregnant the first time, guys will die from blue balls if they, become too aroused. You can get pregnant by oral sex because the sperm goes into your stomach, even though, the uterus is not in the stomach. I have heard a lot of sexual myths. So tell me some that you have heard down in the comments. That's all for now. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you soon. Bye. You can help me continue creating free sex ed content by supporting me on Patreon. For as little as $3 a month, you'll get access to all sorts of goodies, so head on over to patreon.com/Nadine Thornhill or click the link down in the description below.